We talk a lot about resilience, right? That ability to bounce back from whatever life throws at you. But what if that idea is missing something? Something really, really crucial? What if just bouncing back isn't the whole story? Especially when you're bouncing back into a system that's unjust in the beginning with. Well, today we're going to dive into a powerful alternative to that idea, a concept called health survivance.
And our story starts right here, with these incredible words from the artist Taboo. They were written during the Standing Rock protests. And you can feel it, right? This isn't just a poem, it's a declaration. It's not just about enduring something, it's about growing, healing, and actively, intentionally staying. It's honestly the perfect way to get into the big ideas we're going to explore.
So picture this, 2016, a small prayer camp, started by a few American Indian teenagers, explodes into this massive global movement. And they weren't just reacting to a pipeline that was threatening their water and their sacred land. No, they were demonstrating this powerful collective persistence. This wasn't just resilience, it was something more active, something we're about to put a name to.
To really get a handle on this new idea, we first need to take a hard look at the one we all think we know. So let's talk about the problem with resilience.
In psychology, resilience is often called ordinary magic. It's this idea that people have a pretty common, not rare, ability to adapt in a positive way when things get tough. You know the drill: bending without breaking, bouncing back to where you were before. And on the surface, that sounds completely positive. Who wouldn't want that? But what happens when you're just tired of having to be resilient? This quote from American Indian elder Vivek Jeffries Logan, it's just so powerful. It speaks to this deep, deep exhaustion that comes from constantly being pressured to adapt to systems that were designed to push you to the margins. It kind of hints that maybe the goal shouldn't just be to endure. And that leads us to the absolute critical question, right? What if our celebration of resilience sometimes papers over a much deeper problem? What if bouncing back just means you've successfully adapted to a status quo that is fundamentally unfair, instead of actually challenging it?
This is where we get to a really crucial insight. The whole concept of resilience, especially when you apply it in certain contexts, can actually end up reinforcing the very power structures that create the hardship in the first place. Think about it. It puts all the burden on individuals to adapt. It kind of lets the system off the hook. It celebrates coping inside a broken system, which actually takes the pressure off of that system to ever really change.
Now, this critique isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's part of a much bigger and incredibly important conversation: the effort to decolonize psychology. So questioning resilience isn't just about arguing over one little word. It's actually part of a huge paradigm shift. It's about challenging the idea that psychological knowledge that comes from one specific Western viewpoint is somehow universal for everybody. It's about realizing that that perspective has its own history and, its own biases. So what is decolonizing psychology? Well, it's this active process of taking apart those old frameworks. It asks some really tough questions like, who gets to decide what's normal or healthy? Whose ways of knowing and being have been dismissed or totally erased? It's all about reclaiming and centering the knowledge systems of Indigenous and other marginalized peoples.
I absolutely love this phrase from the source material: epistemic disobedience. It's not a passive thing at all. It's an active refusal. A refusal to keep participating in creating knowledge that continues the work of colonization, not just on lands, but on minds and bodies too. It's a really powerful call to think differently.
And all of this brings us to the real heart of our explainer today. If resilience is an incomplete picture, what takes its place? Let's talk about the power of survivance.
The term itself was coined by Anishinaabe scholar Gerald Weisenor, and it's just a brilliant combination of two words. It merges survival with resistance. And right away, you can feel the shift, can't you? This isn't just passively enduring. This is active.
Weisenor's full definition gives it so much more depth. He calls it an active sense of presence. See, it's not just a reaction to trauma. It's a continuation of culture, of stories. And, so importantly, it's a renunciation of dominance, tragedy, and victimry. It fundamentally flips the script on the whole narrative. So how does this concept, which researchers Rachel Wilbur and Joseph Gahn call health survivance, how does it really differ from resilience? Well, it pretty much comes down to four key distinctions. First, it's about resistance to injustice, not just adapting to it. Second, it thinks on a much longer timeline: past, present, and future, not just one person's life. Third, the focus is on the persistence of the whole community and its culture, not just an individual's well-being. And finally, it is an active refusal of a victim identity, rather than a story that's all about adversity.
This beautiful metaphor from Marlene Brand-Castellano just captures the spirit of survivance perfectly. It's not about trying to go back to some perfect pre-colonial past. It's about taking the living embers of ancestral knowledge and fueling them with the realities of today to create a vibrant, thriving future. It's dynamic. It's alive.
To really nail down the difference here, let's turn to one final, really powerful analogy.
Think of it this way. Resilience can be like treading water in the middle of a flood. And you might be amazing at it. It's incredible, life-saving work, but you're still in the flood. You're getting exhausted just keeping your head above the surface. And you didn't even cause the flood, but all your energy is spent just trying to survive it. Survivance, on the other hand, is the collective work. It's everybody pulling each other out of the water, getting to dry land, and then, and this is the key part, figuring out how to redirect the current so the flood doesn't happen again. It's about changing the conditions themselves, not just enduring them. So, what's the big takeaway here? Survivance really pushes us beyond a simple story of trauma and recovery. It centers active resistance. It highlights the persistence of community and culture as the real source of strength. And maybe most importantly, it refrains the entire narrative, away from one of passive victimhood and toward one of active, thriving, continuous presence. This idea of health survivance is such a powerful tool for thinking differently. It challenges us to look so much deeper than just bouncing back. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? If we can re-examine an idea as basic as resilience, what other seemingly universal concepts in our lives might be holding us back from actually, truly thriving?